It's one of those long-running jokes in shonen anime that father figures really aren't that great. When compared to Shou Tucker though, how bad can they really be? One of the best things about Fullmetal Alchemist is the group of villains that the Elric brothers find themselves pitted up against. The homunculi are very much at the core of the themes, reflecting the dangers of alchemy and the danger of hubris and recklessness in pursuit of power through scientific exploration. Another idea at the core of the narrative is regarding the nature of humanity, and specifically what it means to be human. Humans are flawed, and Father sees them as nothing more than a means to an end in his grand plan. Father holds an ill opinion of humans, that's for sure, but ends up emulating them despite trying to distance himself from them. Dante also seems to think of humanity kind of the same way, though very much driven by her own very human fear of mortality and lust for power. Many of the villains in both anime series reflect these ideas, whether for political purposes or personal desires. The first real character, though, to leave a major impact like this on the Elrics, forcing them to question their worldview for the first time, was Shou Tucker, the Sowing Life Alchemist. In a series where the father figure is somewhat absent, the Elrics are searching for mentor figures when they can find them. Not only does Tucker provide them with the tools to study alchemy, but they also connect with him on a more familial level, primarily through his daughter Nina. Now, it's pretty clear upon meeting him that something isn't quite right, with Tucker's wife apparently having left him due to him getting too obsessed with his work. Tucker is working on a secondary attempt to create a chimera, a fusion of two animals, which has the capacity to speak, and have some intelligence and self-awareness apparently. The military pressures him, no doubt wanting to utilize the creature for weaponization, threatening to remove all his funding. Not only will this threaten to ruin his career, but probably put his home and his daughter's future in jeopardy as well. Whether it was the pressure getting to him or some shift in his ego, Tucker decides to make a very disturbing choice in order to continue his research. Most of you probably know where I'm going with this. If you haven't watched or read FMA, please feel free to come back after checking it out. Basically, spoilers ahead. Upon some investigation, Ed and Al figure out that Tucker's wife didn't leave. He had turned his wife into a chimera, leading to its death pretty much immediately afterwards. Arriving at Tucker's home, they see that he has created a chimera with the ability to speak. It's a breakthrough in his research. However, Nina, his daughter, is nowhere to be found. Tucker had in fact fused his daughter with the family dog, creating an unnatural creature that is clearly in some kind of intense physical and probably mental anguish. How could this man, who apparently was so brilliant an alchemist and a loving father, do such a thing? I think this whole event alone is what solidified Tucker as such a memorable and generally hated villain among the fanbase. I think to the audience, it's very much like how the Elrics felt. Betrayed. Tucker is clearly unhinged, but his passion for his work and the love for his daughter makes us feel something for him upon meeting him. This quickly unravels, though, when he commits this truly inhuman act. When Edward confronts Tucker about this, he simply redefines his daughter as an object, a material to add to the equation. Tucker is a man so driven by scientific exploration that he is willing to take it upon himself to sacrifice the life of his daughter for the advancement of his alchemic research. At least, that's basically what he says. However, it's pretty clear that this is partially an excuse. Tucker simply puts his own ego and pride ahead of his daughter's very being. This violation took control completely away from a little girl, whom the brothers had grown rather attached to, and the audience as well. Tucker seems reminiscent of Nazi scientists who performed inhuman experiments on prisoners in war camps. Considering the obvious parallels between Fullmetal Alchemist and early 20th century Germany in real-world history, this is probably intentional. Even so, few other villains have really had as much of an impact on the protagonist's worldview as Tucker did. This is probably due to the act that he committed being towards his own flesh and blood. It isn't some creature produced by alchemy or a higher military figure pulling some strings. He's a human being. An alchemist like Ed and Al, whose age and experience have corrupted him instead of enlightening him. Tucker is human, but the actions he's committed are among the most inhuman in the narrative. Now, Tucker's fate is radically different between the two series. In Brotherhood, he is killed off by Scar after he witnessed the act and kind of executing his own form of justice, as he often does, killing the Nina Chimera as well, ruining any chance of saving her. Kind of adds to the tragedy. Although the encounter is fairly brief, about the length of one episode in Brotherhood, it does set the stage for doubts that the Elrics have regarding alchemy and the many ways that it can be corrupted by human hands. The O3 series goes rather differently. Though thought to be dead at first, Tucker is revealed to be alive and continuing his experiments in a mad scientist fashion. He actually makes himself into a chimera as well, his body being fused into a deformed ape-like creature, his vocals twisted into a raspy whisper for the rest of the show. He's working with the homunculi to create a Philosopher's Stone, partially with the hopes of bringing his daughter back to life. This attempt to redeem Tucker is certainly welcome, although he clearly still has no problem manipulating the brothers and taking human life to further his goals. As the series progresses, his fate becomes almost tragic. Either way, the impact he has as a villain is pretty clear. I've always liked Tucker as a villain. I think if there ever was a definitive bad guy for FMA, it would certainly be him, even though he isn't the main villain. The reveal of what happened to Nina still sticks with me, as it does with many fans, as one of the most tragic moments of the show. I thought the O3 series made good use of him as a recurring villain, at first seeming to be a henchman, but with his own mad scientist agenda. I also just really liked how creepy he was. I was a bit disappointed to find his role in Brotherhood was so limited, but it was still pretty effective. The facade of the purity of scientific pursuit under the guise of progress and the pursuit of power is at the heart of many of the villains of FMA, and one of the key themes of the show. It's one of the many interesting ideas explored in the series. Tucker is a great example of this overall, and a great villain, and he's still one of my favorites. Alright everybody, that was my little video on Shou Tucker. If you have any thoughts or feelings about him, please feel free and let me know in the comments below, and if you haven't subscribed already, please feel free to. There'll be a variety of anime character analysis and series reviews, and sometimes there'll be comic book stuff and movie discussions and similar videos like these and a bunch of podcasts. So basically, new videos every month. Please feel free to like and share it, and let me know suggestions for future videos. Alright everybody, stay magical.